one thing that we all have in common, independently of our culture, of our social costs, our life experiences, our religion, is the fact that we do what we do, doing the 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 best we can to not suffer and to be happy. Everyone does his best. We don't always do the right thing, but w- with our ignorance and with our wisdom, we do the best that we can to not suffer. And being happy and not suffering, they're two sides to the same coin, pretty much the same thing. And if we see from a long, long time, man has been looking for this and is still seeking this in religion, also in medicine, or in the field of medicine, or also in political systems. I remember once talking to a girl who needed to do a thesis on economy and um, on economics, and I asked her, I mean, in the end, what is the objective of economics? And and even economics, whether you follow this or not, it's economics is for the well-being of human beings. But often, what we do looking to be happy doesn't actually bring to that well-being, and we have thousands of examples of this. But the point is, we do everything that we do, like technological developments. I mean, why do they come about? Because we we want individual well-being. I do something to make money. I I do something to destroy my enemy, or to destroy my or I, I do something to help my friends. I do something, but in the end, it's always dedicated to how I can be happy and not suffer. And over the millennia, we've tried many, many things. Some things have worked well. Some things have worked less. Before getting to what I want to talk about, I just want to share one thing. I'll be very brief because I don't want to lose myself in a long introduction. Um, there are four types of situations that we encounter. We can divide them actually into six, but let's stay with four. Four ways to divide the ways that we interact, people, objects, situations that we interact with. And within this interaction, we can divide them into four categories. The first are, they can be people, objects, situations, etc. So those that when we come into contact with them, at first they're pleasurable. That contact generates a feeling of well-being and pleasure, and mid and long term, it's actually beneficial for us. And over time, that contact brings us to increase and maintain this well being of body and mind. And then there are other situations, people, etc., where that first contact is pleasurable, but mid and long term, it's not good for us. The taste is good, but it's the taste is good, but it's actually harmful to us. Or maybe at first contact, it's pleasurable, but then managing that afterwards can be difficult. Many, many things that at first contact, they're pleasurable, but then mid and long term, they're actually destructive, harmful. So, so then we also have things where that first contact is this is not pleasurable, it's unpleasant, and that's unpleasant, and then mid and long term is also harmful. But then there are also those that the first contact is unpleasant, but mid and long term is actually good for us. So we don't need to worry about the things that are pleasant at first, and then mid and long term are good for us. We automatically have attraction, and then we don't need to worry about the things that are unpleasant upon first contact, and then mid and long term are also harmful, because then we will naturally generate aversion. But it's the other two we need to worry about. When we look about what we need to be happy, there's a distinction that we need to have between having a view that is short term or mid or long term, because when we see many of our attitudes, often we have a view that that um, that looks more to the short term more than mid and long term. Um, Most often we're worried about whether it's pleasurable or not, regardless of whether it's beneficial for us emotionally, physically. I've talked about this many times, and it comes to my mind very often, and we need to be careful. This law of m- minimum effort and maximum comfort. We have this straying idea that to be happy, I mean, we're talking about a happiness that is short-lived, short term. We have this idea that we should put as little energy as possible into it and try to be as comfortable as possible, and then that will guarantee happiness. But what would happen if we took a person and we put them in a context where they never have to work hard for anything, what n- which doesn't need to work hard for anything, all desires are instantly gratified, etc., etc., has a level of comfort that is, let's say, exaggerated. So not only are the desires gratified without effort, problems are eliminated, and one lives on a level of exaggerated comfort and practically zero effort. What happens to a person like that? Does that person live in a state of bliss for his whole life? I don't know. Because there are people who are in who have these conditions in our society. There's a term in Tibetan that I like a lot. It, Dubatrunya. You can translate it literally as to survey one's desires. So if I'm surveying your desires, that means uh, as soon as you desire something, I'm there to gratify that wish. I love you, and I don't want you to suffer. As soon as I see that some kind of suffering, some kind of desire, some lacking is missing, then I'm there to fulfill that need. It can happen. People who really love each other, or someone who loves another, a parent to a child, a husband to a wife. I mean, this can happen, that we survey the other's needs. So there are these people who they're in a state of comfort that is better than the kings of the past. Mm, Practically no effort, no hard work. And those who are in a situation like this, rarely do they live in a state of bliss. What happens normally is that, unfortunately, at a certain point, they develop a certain fragility. Those who are raised like this, as soon as there's a little bit of effort or some problem to face, it seems absolutely enormous, because one has also low self-esteem, because I can't resolve things for myself. There's always someone else who's doing it for me, someone else who is fulfilling my disease, and also on a physical, even if this physical suffering is practically inexistent, but the mental suffering is great, because we're talking about physical pleasures. The more I'm able to get these pleasures, the, then the stronger the s- the more physical stimuli I need to satisfy my needs. I mean, this is like a physical law. I mean, the more pleasures we have, the more we need to intensify the physical the stimuli to have that same level of happiness. I mean, can be explained even. Mm, mm, it- I mean, it can be explained very scientifically with dopamine in our bodies. When when you get pleasure, after a while, does is that um, is that physical stimulus enough, or does one need more? One needs something else again and again. So, this law of maximum comfort and minimum effort is a huge facade, it's a trap. And one reason for this is because if, oh, so we need to be careful about that. And let's talk about, for example, let's talk about a child. So, or you, I love you very much. What's more important, that you're happy in this present moment, this immediate moment, or that you develop characteristics that allow you to be fine over time? Let's take an example. There's someone who's having trouble, which is the most normal thing that can happen in life. If as soon as you're in trouble and I come and every time I resolve your problem, the next time that you're in trouble and I'm not there, are you ready to face that yourself? Instead, if you're in trouble and I let you, I'm there. I'm watching, and in case need be, I'm there to intervene. But I let you find within yourself the strength that you have inside. And when you're able, then you develop a tremendous amount of self-esteem. And the next time you find yourself in front of something similar, then you have that reference point. Oh, the last time I did like this. And in that case, so what's the best thing to do, that one lets that person encounter and face that trouble and overcome the trouble for himself. So it's, or go in and just resolve the problem immediately. No, it's important to see what kind of characteristics we can develop over um, in life, in our experiences. I said I wasn't going to give a long definition, but a long introduction, but I just can't. Another example. Once I was with my master, and and I was in front of this young boy who was bringing water up to um, he, I was bringing water up to the fourth floor to the room of my master who lived in, in Tashilumpo, and 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 this was the same room that all the abbots of the monastery lived in. My master, he was the abbot of the monastery. So for over 400 years, that's always been the room of the abbot. So anyway, this boy was walking up these Tibetan stairs that are almost 90 degrees. I'm not even joking. And there are even ropes actually to help one up. And there was this boy who was bringing about 20 liters of water on his back, with the rope also on his forehead. And even if he had been born there and 4,000 meters high, and was quite young, he was out of breath himself. And after the second floor, he let me go in front of him, and I have this mind is a little technical, and I looked down in the courtyard, and there was a faucet with running water, and I thought, well, why not bring that that water, bring a tube. There was a room, and then there was another, then and then there was an so there was another courtyard. There was a room, another room, and my master's room, and around there was there was this courtyard, where there was this receptacle where the boy would bring he would put the water that he brought up. He'd put it in there. There was also um, a little faucet. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult at all to bring the tube up. And I asked my master, why don't we do something like that? And he gave me an answer that I would have never imagined, independently of the technical reason. He said, if young people today don't learn how to have constancy and effort with the most basic things that exist, like having water, how will they ever, how will they ever maintain a level of effort and energy to get things that are more like less vital, like meditation and studying. So, and then they explained to me that to be able to protect these, to protect the actual building, um, to protect the building, they couldn't actually bring a tube inside. So there's also a technical reason, um, because the houses are made up of like adobe, mud and straw. So, but my master, he gave another reason. So it's important to not be afraid of working hard and and learn how to have constancy. It's fundamental, because anything we want to do seriously in our life, then one needs to work hard, right? We want to learn a career, for example. To we want to do sports. Anything that we want to do, we need to work hard at it. If I start thinking, oh no, my wrist hurts, oh, that's too tiresome. If we're afraid of hard work, then we'll just stay where we are, right? I don't know. Is there something that would be, just we want to get somewhere? Would you be able to get there without working for it at all? Even um, working on a relationship with someone, one needs to work at it. Maybe if someone says, no, 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 I don't want to work hard, and I just let it go. Oh no, that job is too hard. Oh, studying, that's too hard. I won't get anywhere. So this ability of self and the self-esteem of not being afraid to work hard, this ability to set an objective and have a constancy is an extremely, extremely worthy characteristic. But how do we learn this? With with experiences or with concepts? With experience. And these experiences, first, the the earlier they come, the deeper they are. This is how I see it. So let's get back to our starting point. So this law of minimum effort and maximum comfort is really taking us down the wrong road. So so where are we where are we directing our happiness, on doing or on being? Because these are two very different ways of being. I could project my happiness onto a, avoiding unpleasant objects, and and having um, pleasurable objects. So I project my happiness on consuming these objects that I like and avoiding the ones I don't like. Or I can I I can I can direct my happiness onto characteristics that I can develop: patience, happy, love, etc. In the middle of this, the many different philosophies have come up, and Buddha Shakyamuni was someone who reached a state of peace with himself and with others. And he said, it's working for me. If you want, I'll share. I'll share with anyone who wants what I've done. Even though as soon as he reached this state of peace, nirvana, nirvana means beyond suffering. He stayed 7 weeks alone in the forest. It's said that the first words were, and this is cited in a sutra called Gacheropa Lalita Vistara that talks about the life of Buddha. That's where you can find this sutra. So he says, deep or profound and peaceful, free from elaborations and non-composed. A nectar like this I have found, and no matter to whom I explain it, they won't be able to understand it. So I'm going to stay here by myself in the forest, meditating. Oh, so now let's not give a commentary on this verse. But why does he say, no matter to whom I explain it, they won't be able to understand it? Not because everyone was stupid, but because it was a non-conceptual experience that can't be explained with words. It's not something I can explain to you and then it's done. I mean, most of our experiences are like this. I mean, try to explain what the experience of eating chocolate ice cream is to someone who's never seen chocolate, who's never seen, maybe hasn't even seen ice. Oh, there's something cold. But how cold? It's as cold as something you've never experienced. I mean, how can you explain it? It's really difficult. Then chocolate. What's chocolate? I remember a Tibetan scholar who traveled in India in the 1800s, and he had his travel journal, and he was the first one to 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 write down all the details about his experiences in India, and he was um, writing down what the experience of eating a mango was, and he said that the taste is like fresh yogurt with a lot of sugar, which has nothing to do with mango. But he tried somehow to get as close as possible. So imagine Buddha who reached such a deep state of peace. What words could transmit that, explain that? None. And at the end of these 49 days, the story of the sutra says that the two devas, two celestial beings, Brahma and Indra, no, sorry, Indra and Vishnu, that go to Buddha and they give to him their symbols, a conch and the wheel, and they say to him, we make this offering to you, we praise you, because they saw the state that he had reached, and they said, please share how you reached this state. And this was from Bodh Gaya. He walked towards Sarnath, and that's where he met his first 5 disciples, and the first turning of the wheel came about. So these methods that he transmitted these methods to reach enlightenment. So thinking about this, at the end of the day, Buddhism is it's a method, it's a way, it's a lifestyle. There are many characteristics, like many others that exist, but it's a methodology to try to be happy and to not suffer in the way that there are 1,000 different other ways to get there. There are those who think that to to be happy, one needs to constantly have more and more pleasures. And there are different traditions and different ways of getting more and more pleasures. There are kind of, let's say, so-called lineages, techniques that are developed for, from food to sex, right? But in the end, why do we fixate so much on food? I mean, what do we like? Good food or that feeling of pleasure? So the more I experience pleasure, the more I want, and so we need to elaborate more and more, you know, to to just elaborate more and more experiences of pleasure. Um, instead, when I lived in India, what was there was there. It wasn't like, oh no, I need extra virgin olive oil, please. No. So it's good, to enjoy nice things, but then I'm relying more and more on conditions, external conditions to be happy. But Buddhism, and I imagine all religions, I think, it's a system that takes us towards a state of happiness and away from suffering that can be divided principally into three aspects: view, tawa in Tibetan, conduct or behavior, chupa, and the techniques of familiarization, gompa, sometimes translated as meditation. But they're techniques to familiarize one's mind, the view. It's our worldview. It's the way we see reality. And there are many, many characteristics that have to do with the view. And it's developed through study. Through so the question from what are the causes of suffering and what is happiness, or the question, what is reality? How does reality exist? I mean, so many different aspects. Them have to do with the view that we're not going to get into right now. And then the second part is called conduct, behavior. These are the so-called rules um, about how we should behave physically, verbally, and mentally, so that we can live a life that matches, that corresponds to the view. In Buddhist tradition, for example, there are rules of contact. They're divided into three main groups: the pratimoksha vows, or the so-called personal liberation vows, where one recognizes the fewer stupid things I do, the less I'll suffer. So, what are things I could do that would generate suffering? Killing, stealing, lying, having a wrong sexual contact, or take substances that fog up the mind, like drugs and alcohol. Because let's look at this. I mean, stealing creates problems, doesn't it? What about lying? Yes. Killing? That too. It's a suffering for others, but also for who kills. It's it, th- so there. It's a physical problem. It's a mental. It creates also a mental problem. What about a sexual conduct that is is incorrect, um, like cheating, for example? I mean, it takes up space in one's mind. It creates conflicts. We could spend a lot of time on each one of these points, getting into detail. But this one is a little particular because in our society there are things that are there. There's some things that are completely open and widespread, and other things are huge taboos, like money. I mean, we talk about money all the time. But at the same time, it's a taboo. You can't really talk about it. If you go, if you if you go to a restaurant, then you can all see it's a little bit uncomfortable when the bill comes. Who's going to pay? So money's everywhere, and at the same time, it's a taboo. What about sex? How widespread is sex? The advertisement, an ad for almost everything, or am I wrong, has some kind of sexual component, and yet it's a taboo in so many ways. So when we talk about sexual misconduct, we get a little curious. I mean, there are many different ways that it can be explained, but the best way, I think, the, we can see two aspects. First of all, a commitment that one person has with another person. So if I have a commitment with someone, I need to respect that commitment. So if someone has So if one has a relationship and he breaks a commitment, then that's misconduct. Um, it's a commitment between two people. Um, if I do something that I can't let someone else know, then we can say that person is breaking a commitment. Once one told me about the deeper meaning of the word um, that lust, and in the Christian tradition, is a sin. We can understand it as the lack of consideration for the dignity of the object of desire. In other words, it's like I see you as my object of desire, as an instrument for my pleasure, and I don't care at all about your needs and your desire. What's important is that you are an instrument for my pleasure. This is, from what I understood, is one of the definitions we say, or the meanings of lust, because in a relationship there's an exchange, and in coming into contact with another person, regardless of the level, and even more so when there's a physical component, it's it's important to understand that there is another person there, and have consideration for the needs, the desires of that other person. And what does that mean? That even if one respects the first rule, okay, I'm within my marriage, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that he's respecting that second point. And even more modern law in other countries, there's within a even within a marriage, if one doesn't respect the needs and desires of the other, of the partner, of the spouse, that is an act of violence. I think that's clear. No? So now let's look. I mean, killing, that generates problems, of course. Um, Stealing, um, so killing, stealing, lying, wrong, sexual misconduct. And then what about alcohol and drugs? In Tibetan, it's said alcohol is the door, is the gateway to all non-virtuous things. Chang is alcohol, Nyeba, non-virtuous actions, etc. The example given is there's a person who has a vow to not kill um, or steal or lie and have correct. It also has the vow of not drinking. Um, so so the vow of not drinking can be taken in two ways. Not drinking a drop of alcohol, or of not letting alcohol um, um, to not allow oneself to get drunk. And uh, and this just I want to say there was a friend who once told me who who stopped drinking for a couple of weeks and then came to me and said, you know, I was so used to drinking and this feeling of being a little bit too foggy minded. I thought it was normal. So we think that that's normal. So even just a little bit of alcohol can make one foggy minded. At one point, so getting back to the story, there's this man who has these 5 vows of you know of not drinking, no not killing, etc. And so he had to choose one. And then, well, the least the l- the the least serious of all of these um, would be to drink. So starts drinking, and they got totally drunk. So someone who's completely balanced and drinks, there's no problem. But this boy, he drinks and he gets drunk, and then he sees a woman, and he doesn't have any more control of his desire. So he breaks the vow of of no sex, huh, of celibacy, and then after sex he gets really hungry and sees an animal, kills the animal to kill it and eat it. So the point is that because of alcohol, then he broke all of the other his other vows. I have nothing against alcohol, you know, but we need to be very careful to keep our other commitments, to keep our commitments in general, because when we lose control, we're still responsible for the stupid things that we do. I mean, this is the real problem, isn't it? There was one Lama, for example, that I knew. I never received formal teachings from him. I was just a child when he was recognized. In 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 Brazil, in Brazil, even in the middle of ceremonies, he would drink. He would drink, and the more he would drink, the more he would drink, he would lose certain formalities, and then he would give marvelous, marvelous teachings. And so he was in this state where he was, I mean, even the sometimes the disciples would need to like take him to bed and he could hardly stand up for himself. So what I mean to say is that when a person is drunk, what comes out? So deep characteristics. But if one in normally controls one's attraction and aversion. Oh, I have a thought, but I'm going to be quiet about it. But then, if one loses control, then all of that goes out the window. So, in these first vows, we ask, what are the actions that maybe at first contact are pleasurable, um, are at first contact are pleasurable or more convenient, but that bring mid and long term more problems. They are actually harmful mid and long term. So that first type of vows has to do with taking serious vows to avoid conduct that generates suffering mid and long term. And these are the most important, the most well known. And then there's so many others that we can add, getting into contact. I mean, if we lived in a society where everyone respected these 5, it would already be much, much better. Okay, I'm gonna just hold back to not get into to other things. The second types of vow are called the vows of Bodhisattva, because in the first vows, even in the first vows, um, they're vows linked to our speech. So not just about not lying, but also not using words that create division or and, or not gossip. Why? Why is that a problem? Why is gossiping or just talking without anything, talking about anything meaningful? Um, because when we gossip, what's the subject of our gossip? Normally, are we going to chat? Even chatting, do we chat about the the real meaning or the ultimate existence of reality? Or when we just chat, are we talking about the real social problems? No. Most of the time, when we're just chatting or gossiping, that's actually nourishing aversion, nourishing an attraction. This is what happens when we're just chatting or gossiping. Anyway, if there are other types of other commitments that we can look at, the other one, so those were linked to the pratimoksha vows, and the second type are the bodhisattva vows that have to do with commitments with ourselves. There are 18 main vows, and the fundamental vow is to it's based on the commitment to dedicate oneself to the happiness of others, including his own, not in alternative to himself. As I love myself, I love others as much as I love myself, and there's so many other aspects of these vows. There's one part of these vows that says, if someone asks you for something that he needs, and you can give it to him, you have to give it to him. That's one of the vows, for example. There are many of them. So 18 main vows and 20 secondary. Some are very easy because they're vows that originally they were transmitted to kings. There were different ministers and kings. Um, there's one, you know, that says don't create laws that are going to harm others. I don't know is anyone here in parliament or or writes laws. So this is a problem that doesn't touch many. And then the third category are the tantric vows, and in the self-healing, we see that they're linked to the five Dhyani Buddhas. And then if you look at the practice of self-healing, it actually explains, okay, the samayas, um, the there's the samaya of Amoghasiddhi or samaya of Ratnasambhava. It is to maintain generosity, etc. And these are the vows of 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 behavior that highlights what we should do more than what we should avoid, and they're very deep. And sometimes people say, "Oh, I practice a bodhisattva path, and or I'm a Vajrayana practitioner, so I leave the pratimoksha vows aside. Why should I take these vows?" Okay, maybe not killing and not stealing. Um, but the others, why do I need to take these vows? Or actually, to not steal, actually, stealing is defined as taking what has not been given to you, taking possession of something that's not ours. This is the explanation of stealing, and sometimes people say, why do I need to take these vows? But in reality, to take bodhisattva vows, and even in the tantric vows, one one tantric vow says to respect all the other vows. So breaking one pratimoksha vow is also breaking a tantric vow, because at the basis is the basis is if I'm not able to if I'm not able to control my own behavior regarding very basic things, how can I expect to take more, deeper, more complicated vows? But so in conduct, we shouldn't see these as imposed vows. Sometimes people come to me and they ask me, "Can a Buddhist do this?" A Buddhist can do anything. There's no rule. Like you're a Buddhist, you can't do this or you can't do that. But if you ask me, according to Buddhist teachings, doing this, would it would it be beneficial to do this? No, I can say it would be better to do differently. But I wanted to put a little emphasis on this point because sometimes I have this feeling that when we get close to Buddhism, we put emphasis on philosophy and learning and understanding things, and often we use Buddhist philosophy like psychology, which is also fine, but beyond the view and developing our changing our worldview, our conduct our conduct of avoiding what is harmful and doing what is beneficial is fundamental, because if we don't do this, it's what we how we behave is not going to match what we think is true or our view, and there's no threat here. You're not going to go to hell or let's not get into this now. But just very, very quickly, the hells in the hells in Buddhism are described as a mental state of being. One explanation of a hell that I've seen, this explanation comes from a story of a high schooler. Uh, uh, so it's a high schooler, and this is in the United States. At a certain point, she was in the chemistry lab doing experiments. Mm. And there was an accident. And she caught on fire. Her whole body was burned. She was all burned. And she went to the hospital, and her body was seriously burned. They gave her a they gave her induced coma. She was in a coma for 10 days, and when she came out of coma, she was very fearful, and it took her a long time to talk about it. She was in a state of, it was just, um, she was in like an emotional state. She not even remembering what was happening, but when she was finally able to explain what happened, she said that during that period of coma, for those who saw from outside, 10 days had gone by, but she went into a kind of inner emotional loop where she was raped and burned, and then it was just repeated again and again, raped and burned, raped and burned. And the question is, physically, where was this girl? She was in the hospital. Was anyone hurting her? No. But that suffering, did she live that suffering? Yes. This is an example of of the various types of hells that are explained in Buddhism. Is a reoccurring hell where an extreme suffering is repeated again and again. I mean, for her, how much time went by? Did that feel like a long time or a short time? It was probably a long, long time. And this also really falls perfectly into the description of the hells according to Buddhism. I'm sorry to say this because it's quite a delicate subject, but it's not that far from our own reality. Someone who goes into a negative mental loop can stay there for a long time. So, but the question here is not that you shouldn't do this because then as some kind of punishment you'll be sent here. No, it's about love for ourselves, where I recognize clearly this thing is pleasurable, but it's harmful, and I don't want to harm myself. This thing is unpleasant, but it's good for me. So I want to treat myself well. And if I really, and if, and so, let's at least let's try to cultivate the things that are pleasurable and that are good for us, and avoid the things that we don't, um, uh, and avoid really what's that's unpleasant and we don't like. But we really need to develop a view that is m- that goes towards the future, more mid and long term, and we should look for ourselves. What are our behaviors, behaviors that we would like to avoid, that we objects that we come into contact with, situations, our own conduct, our way of speaking, our way of thinking, choices that we make, etc. And these things that we know are bad for us. And regardless of how much we try to justify, for I'll give you a personal example. I it, it it wasn't easy for me to abandon lactose, for example. I loved cheese, mozzarella. Instead, it's really bad for me. And there was this time that there was a period where I saw that it was bad for me, but the pleasure was greater. It was greater than the negative effects. And then, oh, I thought I came up with so many excuses. Oh, I'm not that. It's not that bad, or it must be from it's coming from another problem. Um, and then what happens is when then I stopped eating it, but I was still completely inflamed, because it takes time once someone has created that level of inflammation, gastric inflammation. It takes time. So the point is that it's really hard to give up something that we are really attached to. You need strength, determination to say, this physical behavior that I have is bad for me. Emotionally, this um, thing is bad for me. And so this has to do with just our physical conduct, our verbal conduct, our mental contact. Complaining is harmful, for example. Reacting aggressively is harmful. So I ask you to observe for yourselves what your behaviors are, those that you know based on experience, are 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 negative for you for mid and long term, and take that commitment to avoid them. I mean, but take that commitment seriously. Otherwise, what will happen, I take the commitment that I won't eat lactose, I won't eat mozzarella, as long as I'm not in front of mozzarella. So when I'm not in front of mozzarella, I feel I when I'm so when I'm not in front of mozzarella, I feel proud. Oh, I've taken this commitment to not eat mozzarella. But when I have mozzarella in front of me, I can't maintain that commitment because it's so good. So for example, if for example, if we're walking and something is coming flying towards us, instinctively we try to protect ourselves. We protect our eyes. We try to protect ourselves from contact with that flying object. So similarly, if I have this commitment to not eat mozzarella and I see I see that that's really important for me to not eat the mozzarella. Um, and I don't have a certain, I recognize I don't have a certain level of stability. I need to avoid situations that would bring me to be face to face with mozzarella, certain restaurants, for example. But what's fundamental is this sincerity with ourselves. And one fundamental quality along our path, and much more so along our spiritual path, is to respect respect our the commitments that we take. Respect and maintain. Is it easy? No. And to do this, it's for this reason there are things um, to remind us of the commitments we've taken, different meanings. But for example, what about the wedding band? Is to remind me of the commitment I've taken, because every maybe maybe there'll be times when feel like forgetting about it. Instead, I have this object that reminds me of this commitment I've taken. Of course, other there are other meanings too. There's also an energetic meaning. Why does one wear a wedding band on the ring finger on the left hand? There's is because there's a meridian that has to do also with bliss and also sexual pleasure too. So what happens is when one has an object, in this case is gold mostly is used, um, this helps to have greater control over that energy. This is one of the meanings also of the wedding band. In any case, when we take a commitment, it's important to have something external that reminds us of this commitment that we've taken. I can wear a certain color. I can wear some kind of jewelry, put something around my wrists. I can cut my hair in a certain way. What do I know? Have something, anything. So any external object that reminds me of the commitment I've taken. Another thing that can help us is to take a commitment in front of someone else, in front of a witness, because maybe we don't have as much consideration for ourselves as we do for others. So if we take that commitment in front of someone that we consider more, we can think, well, how can I do this in front of this other person? That's why wedding vows are taken in front of witnesses. Okay, so we could, or we say, oh, just, you know, only you and I, we got married and I was there and only you were there. No one knows, no one else knows we're married. But once everyone knows, there's also, there are different commitments that come together with marriage. And there's also, there's that and so when you invite everyone, it becomes like a public event, and that commitment becomes more solid, deeper. And if I take that commitment in front of all of my friends, all of my family, all of these people, it's more difficult to break that commitment, isn't it? I mean, there are those who don't care at all, but generally speaking, we can say that it would be harder to break that commitment. And and there's another point, and I think this would be really beneficial for marriage. Actually, would be to take commitments for a specific amount of time. Um, there's a community not far from here, um, Damayur, and they actually have this rule that when two people want to get married, when they want to get married, it's for a specific amount of time, and and then after 1 year, I think it's 1 year, then they come back and they ask themselves if they want to renew that commitment for another year or not. If yes, then they take another commitment, and they also take the commitment on what they want to work work on. After renewing for 5 years every year, then they can take the commitment for 2 years. So very often, um, those couples are very much closer when instead we take a commitment for an undetermined amount of time. We can think, oh, my whole life. And when a moment of difficulty comes up, one thinks, oh, like this forever? No, for anything. But that moment of difficulty will pass. Uh, But if instead if I think, oh no, it's only 3 months, it's only 3 months, I can get there. After, when that moment of difficulty passes, then one can say, okay, there are also many positive aspects. We want to renew this commitment, and one renews that commitment. So, advice that I have for anyone who's in a relationship with someone else is to renew that commitment o- over time. This is something that's very important, and some important to look into each other's eyes and ask what you're doing and where you want to go. Instead, if you take for granted, then when then when it's for instead when one takes a commitment for a specific amount of time, one is more careful about um, how one behaves. There was this American company where ev- every year 30% of 30% of the staff would be let go. It's not a great way to manage a company from my point of view. But the point is, when we have something that is when it is in a fixed amount of time, then we're much more careful about it. So I invite you to take vows, commitments, not a lot, very few. And when you do take a commitment, if I think that I can do 10, then I take the commitment to do 5. 5, though, 5 that go beyond what I already do. No one needs to take the commitment to breathe every day or to sleep or to eat. Normally, the commitments that we take are there to help us avoid the things that are harmful, or you can also take take commitments that are a kind of protection. I take the I take the commitment to not kill, another person. Uh, well, I've never had the desire. I've never felt the need to kill another person. Um, but it's such an important commitment to take. Then I go ahead and I take this commitment um, to protect myself. Mm, or so there's a so 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 sometimes, even if there are things that apparently don't seem important, one still takes that vow to protect himself. But before looking at the vows in detail, or other bodhisattva vows, and 1 or 2 days I promise we will look at the bodhisattva vows. Let's start by looking at our own behavior, the behavior that we have that's harmful to ourselves. And we and and start one vow at a time, one commitment at a time, with a maximum of 15 days. And after 15 days, we ask ourselves if we want to renew that vow or not. Sometimes 15 days is too much. 1 week then. And then we renew it. It's important because we're made of habits, and t- taking these commitments is about getting out of our comfort zone, and 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 so I can diminish the strength of that negative habit where I want something, but I put effort into countering it and not following that desire. I think it's pretty clear. The other part of the path is important is this part of familiarization. Very quick example. Instead of instead of talking about a path to enlightenment, let's talk about a diet. Let's say that I want to follow a certain diet, and the diet is made up of three parts: view, conduct, and familiarization. So the view is where I learn about the diet. I study well. Oh, I need to eat this, I need to avoid eating that. If I eat this, this is going to happen, etc. And in that part, there are also two parts. There's the understanding, and I understand once they explain something to me, and I can repeat. And so I can repeat what the diet is that I want to follow. But if someone starts to ask me more complicated questions, then maybe I won't be able to answer. That second part is 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 really understanding. So I take that knowledge and I make it my own. Once I've understood the diet well, then I go into that second phase, which is conduct. What would be the conduct of the diet? Would be actually eating this and not eating that. But are we always able to do that, or are there difficult situations? What now? Easter is coming. Maybe we go to our auntie's house, our grandma's house, our mother's house, and there's Easter lunch, and I know when I go to that auntie, oh, how is it that you're not going to eat this? It's almost as if you're hurting her. Oh, I prepared it with so much love. All of your aunts, all of your ancestors have eaten this. No one's ever died from this. Why can't you eat it? You know, you're going to hurt me if you don't eat it. I did it with so much love. So, of course, you know, we don't want to hurt our auntie, but we also would love to eat that. So we say, oh, so, how how much could that hurt? And they one at that point breaks his commitment. So how does one not break the commitment? Then we put effort into the familiarization. So here we sit down to meditate, we breathe, we bring the mind to a minimum amount of balance. We can do an analytical meditation on the diet. So I look back at the why of the diet as if I'm convincing someone else about it. And I could go through the whole diet. I should eat this, I shouldn't eat that. And I look back at the diet. And once I've gotten to that final conclusion of the diet, I leave that conclusion aside and I imagine that I'm at my auntie's house. And here I am. And, and she, and and then she's there, she's blackmailing me, emotionally blackmailing me. If you don't eat this, I'm going to be so sad. And here, and then other people who are looking at me and says, "Oh, you're exaggerating. What? It's Easter. Just eat this." And we need in visualization, imagine um, we to not eat it, but also, trying not to hurt our auntie either. Somehow we find a way to do that. If we're able in visualization, in imagining, to repeat this several times, um, where we're not taken by these difficulties and where we're able to not break our vow, then when we actually find ourselves in a situation that's similar, it's much easier. In other words, I'm not in front of that delicious dish right now. Um, so why should I imagine it? Because sooner or later I'm going to find myself face to face with it. So I imagine it being in that situation, and and you know, and I'm able, they take me to that restaurant. I see the dish I love so much, and I'm able to say no, thank you. And and I have internalized this is good for me and this is not good for me. And more I'm able to the more I'm able to face a situation like this in visualization, the the more I am actually prepared for the actual situation when it arises. So this third fundamental pillar is about familiarizing ourselves with the qualities that we want to develop and avoiding what we want to abandon, so that we can familiarize our being, our mind in a certain direction. So there's sacred art, recitations, mantras, um, meditation. There are many exercises that are done to go in that direction. So one important thing beyond studying, reading, understanding, and trying to apply our worldview, we need to follow a certain conduct. As we said last week, get out a little bit from our comfort zone and a little at a time try more and more to cultivate what is good for us, but is not necessarily pleasurable, and abandon what is pleasurable but that is harmful. If we're able to distinguish between these two things, it's a lot. It's a lot. And with this, there's conduct, and beyond contact, we can use tools to help us familiarize our mind. Our mind is malleable. It needs repetition to learn. It need to get in there and repeat for 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, and little by little, it takes that shape. One, one of the reasons, one reason why there is so much recitation in Tibetan Buddhism is because our speech is not disconnected from our mind. And even if in that moment I'm not actively thinking about it, just saying it connects me to that thought. So it shows how important it is how we use our speech. Because if I say things I don't think, um, on one side it's true. I'm not actively thinking about that, but as I say it, I'm making an imprint into my mind, and so it's the way we use our speech is very, very important. There are many studies, modern studies, that in neurolinguistics that talk about the power of our speech. Um, so we shouldn't say things that we don't really feel, that we don't think, things that do not correspond to what we want. That's why there's so much recitation. And in recitation, one says something and repeats it again and again. and little by little that message comes, um, and even the images, that's the same thing. So on this point, one important aspect is when we talk about objects of familiarization, it's not just that formal moment of meditation. When when we sit down to watch a movie or read a book, are we familiarizing ourselves with something? Yes. Everything we do, the more we repeat it, the more that message comes in and the more we familiarize ourselves with that thing. So so we need to ask ourselves what we want to familiarize ourselves with. So view, who do I want to be? Conduct, how can I act daily to so that that corresponds to who I want to be. And familiarization or meditation, I'm going to familiarize myself through the tools, um, so that I can gradually familiarize myself with who I want to be. Right? Are you following? So now, in Buddhism, there are many, many different methods. And it's one of the most important points. As I said before, it's not enough to know. Once we understand, we need to familiarize ourselves with something. Already, all the part of contact, but also in familiarization. Our spiritual path is divided into two parts: when we're meditating and when we're not meditating, and they both have the same level of importance. Here, I give a lot of emphasis, emphasis to our conduct, because how long is the period between meditations? Um, is it a day, a month? It depends. It's all different. It's different for everyone. So for someone who is dedicated to 12 hours of meditation a day, then it's obviously that the meditation sessions is very, very important. Instead, those who don't have that level of preparation experience, the daily conduct becomes very important. So now we will briefly do the practice of self-healing, which is a technique of meditation that Lama Gangchen Rinpoche transmitted that helps us familiarize ourselves with what we want to be through mostly these 5 archetypes, we can call them, where we cultivate these qualities inside using a certain symbolism, because these are things that go beyond the form, and we gradually allow ourselves to identify ourselves these um, with these um, with these qualities represented by the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Many of you know the practice of self-healing very well, others less so. If this is your first time here and you don't feel comfortable following the movements, because it's a practice done also with mudras, in the practice you can do it with movements, without these hand gestures. You can do it um, by reciting or without reciting. Um, the visualizations instead are good to know. But there are different ways that one can do this practice. So now we'll do it recited today, given that we have just a little as a question of time. So first of all, we sit down in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our head is slightly forward with our eyes slightly closed. Our mouth is relaxed. And we bring our awareness to our breath for a moment. We allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. Kindly, gently, we bring our attention to the air that comes in and goes out. We inhale and exhale. We visualize our body like a body of light, light, transparent. In the space in front of us, Guru Buddha arises in the aspect of our own root Guru, inseparable from every Buddha, every holy being. Guru Buddha smiles at us, and looking towards us, we desire deeply to get out of the cycle of suffering. We desire deeply to develop our qualities like love, compassion, stability, joy, patience, generosity, wisdom, harmony, etc. And thus eliminate every form of suffering. And to do this, we ask Guru Buddha for help. We ask Guru Buddha to bless our 5 chakras so that we can develop our own qualities to their maximum potential, to help every being do the same. Guru Buddha accepts our request, and from his 5 chakras, light, rays, and nectars, white, red, blue, yellow, and green, emanate from his 5 chakras and absorb into our respective chakras, giving us his blessings and revitalizing our qualities, creating the conditions so that we can develop our qualities and eliminate our mental defilements.
Pege drolor zampe tse parachen palden lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Buddha 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 Siddhi Hum.
Purification of the 5 elements at our 5 chakras. We purify the element of space at our crown chakra, the wind at our secret chakra, The wind blows,
salendo dalle gambe,
coming up from our legs,
scendendo verso il corpo,
going up
riunendosi
to our
al chakra
body,
segreto, alla
getting
base
to
della
the
colonna vertebrale.
base of
Il
our
vento entra nel canale centrale,
um, spinal
scaldando e
column,
purificando il fuoco all'ombelico.
and it increases the fire
Il
at
fuoco
our
cresce,
navel. The fire
purificando e
grows,
riscaldando la
purifying and
terra.
heating up the earth at our heart.
Il calore della
The
terra
heat of
purifica
the
l'acqua
earth
alla gola,
purifies the water at our
che si va
throat. The water
sciogliendo la
evaporates,
cervicale,
going towards our
che si
crown, where
condensa,
it condenses
scioglie la
and it
bodhicitta bianca,
melts the
che
white
scende per
bodhicitta
tutto il
that
nostro corpo
comes
fino a
down through
raggiungere
our entire body
man
like
mano che
a
beviamo
rain of nectar. And as the nectar
riempie
comes
ogni
down, it
parte del
fills
corpo
up every part of
di
our body
sensazioni
with
profonde.
a deep, deep feeling of bliss.
E yam ram lam bam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha e ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha yam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha Ram ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha Lam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha Bam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha Eyam ram lam bam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha. Il nettare scende
The nectar comes
e
down,
sperimentiamo
and
una
we experience
sensazione profonda di
a
beatitudine,
deep feeling of bliss,
un piacere,
like
gioia
a joy,
che
a
riempie
pleasure
l'intero
that
corpo
fills up
in ogni aspetto.
our entire body, every aspect of our being.
In questo stato di
In
gioia
this state of joy,
percepiamo che la
we
realtà che ci
perceive the
circonda
reality that surrounds us, and even
inizia a
ourselves,
appare a noi
even if it
come se
appears to
esistesse in
us
modo
as if it
autonomo,
existed
oggettivamente,
autonomously, objectively,
indipendente.
independently.
Ogni cosa
Everything
esiste dentro
exists
di una complessa
within
interdipendenza.
a, a very complex interdependence. See,
Nulla esiste in modo
nothing
oggettivo e
exists
indipendente, bensì
objectively,
in un modo soggettivo e
independently,
interdipendente.
but in a subjective, interdependent way.
Perciò
So,
la realtà non è
reality
in modo
is
oggettivo e
not
indipendente così come appare.
objective and independent the way it appears.
Omo Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddham. L'intero universo
The entire universe around
si
us
dissolve in luce.
dissolves into light.
Le città, esse le
Cities,
pianeti vivi,
the beings
le
therein,
montagne, i laghi,
the mountains,
le
the lakes,
foreste,
the
i
forests,
mari, gli oceani,
the oceans, the
tutto ciò che ci
seas,
circonda
everything around us
gradualmente si
gradually
dissolve in luce.
dissolves into light.
Il nostro corpo
Our
dall'alto al
body
basso, dal
from
basso
above
all'alto,
and below, and from
fuori
below
dentro, si
and
dissolve
above towards our
in
heart
luce.
dissolves into light.
Non c'è altro
There's
che
nothing
tutto
other
vuoto,
than an infinite,
vuoto di
luminous
un'espressione
emptiness,
mai oggettiva e sì interdipendente.
empty of inherent existence.
Questo vuoto luminoso
This
è inseparabile da una profonda
it's
beatitudine.
inseparable from a
Noi
profound
siamo
bliss, and
esplosione
we
non duale,
are this non-dual union of
vacuità.
bliss and emptiness. Gradually,
da questo stato
from this
profondo di
deep state of
attenzione,
bliss and emptiness,
una volta ancora
once again,
riusciamo a percepire
we're
l'universo
able
intorno a
to
noi,
perceive the universe that
che
surrounds us,
gradualmente
that gradually appears.
ci troviamo in un
We
luogo
found
bello,
we find ourselves in a beautiful
noi stessi
place.
abbiamo un corpo di
We
luce
have
con un canale
we
centrale,
have a
delle
body of
glande
light
pineali,
with a central
5
channel
principali punti di
and
energia
two
dentro e
side
fuori di noi,
channels and the so-called 5 energy points, chakras.
lo spazio davanti a
In the
noi si
space in
trova
front of us, Guru Buddha is there,
inseparabile da tutti,
inseparable from all
in ognuno dei suoi
Buddhas,
chakra,
and in each one of his
equilibrati, c'è uno dei
chakras,
5 Dhyani Buddha
perfectly balanced,
rappresentando le sue
is
qualità,
one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, representing perfectly um,
in ognuno dei nostri
the
chakra
perfect
sorge un fiore
qualities.
d'oro,
At each one of our chakras,
rappresentando
a
questa
lotus flower
scala sottile di
appears,
energia perfettamente equilibrata.
representing a perfectly balanced
Dal chakra segreto, giallo al
energy
primo,
centers.
blu al cuore, rosso laggiù,
So,
bianco al
green at our secret chakra, yellow at our navel, blue at our heart, red at our
all'interno di
throat,
ogni
and white at our
fiore
crown.
sorge una
Within each
sillaba
one, a seed
vibrante
syllable
che
arises, like
vibra
a point of light that
rappresentando la
vibrates
nostra
with the
propria
sound,
potenza,
representing our
le
own
nostre qualità
potential,
nella
our
loro essenza che
qualities in their
gradualmente si
essence
possono
that
sviluppare.
gradually can be
Nel capo
developed.
c'è la Om
There's a
Shanti,
white om at the
A
crown, a red ah at our throat, a blue hum at our heart, a
chakra
yellow
segreto.
tram at our navel, and a green ri at our
Gradualmente
secret chakra. Gradually,
le sillabe
the
si
seed
trasformano in
syllables are
simboli di 5
transformed
Dhyani
into the
Buddha,
symbols of the 5
rappresentando le
Dhyani
nostre
Buddhas,
qualità che
representing our
gradualmente si
qualities that are
manifestano.
gradually
Al chakra
developing. At
segreto
our
si
secret
manifesta
chakra,
il
there's
re, il punto
is a
violeggiato
double
che
green
rappresenta la base
vajra,
del Buddha,
a yellow,
una donna, un
um,
fiore di loto rosso e un capo una rosa
a
d'Arabia. I simboli a loro volta gradualmente si trasformano nei 5
the
Dhyani Buddha, rappresentando le nostre qualità
and then
fatte
the
di massima
symbols
potenza.
transform into the 5
A
Dhyani
capo c'è il
Buddhas.
Buddha Vairochana bianco,
White Vairochana
un red Amitabha
at our
rosso, un
crown,
cuore
a red
Akshobhya,
Amitabha at our
un
throat, a
velitro
blue
Ratnasambhava giallo al chakra
Akshobhya at our
segreto.
heart, and a yellow Ratnasambhava at our navel, and a green Amoghasiddhi
Pamle Pema
at our secret
Changu,
chakra.
Pamle Pema Changu, Pamle Pema Serpo, Pamle Pema Serpo, Pamle Pema Ngompo, Pamle Pema Ngompo, Pamle Pema Marpo, Pamle Pema Marpo, Pamle Pema Carpo, Pamle Pema Carpo. Om Ahum Tramari Rile Natso Dorje Changori Tramle Norbe Serpo Tram Hunle Dorje Ngombo Hung Ale Pema Marpo A Omle Korlo Karpo Om Om Korlo Nanse Dorje Apema Che Dorje Hun Dorje Mikyo Dorje Tam Norbu Rinchun Dorje Rinatso Dorje Toyun Dorje Lama Tuyun Dorje Kin
Lama Toyun Dorje Kyan.
al chakra
At our
segreto
secret chakra,
con le
with the
benedizioni del
blessings of
Supremo Dottore
Supreme Healer Guru Buddha
Lasciamo
Amoghasiddhi,
perdere
green
tutte
in
le paure,
color with the mudra of known fear.
riceviamo tutte le
We receive
benedizioni,
all the
eliminiamo
blessings and we
tutte le
eliminate all
negatività nella forma
negativities that are related to the
celeste,
secret chakra
nella
in
forma
the
del cielo
form
Garuda,
of
spugna,
dark
polvere
green
e spazzatura,
Garuda, smoke and dirt.
specialmente
Especially,
eliminiamo completamente
we
ogni forma di
eliminate
paura,
every form of fear,
di incertezza,
uncertainty,
di gelosia,
jealousy,
invidia
envy,
e tutte le
and
malattie
all
associate al
sicknesses that
secolo
are
segreto
related to the secret
vengono
chakra. They're
completamente eliminate.
completely eliminated. We receive all the blessings of Supreme Healer Buddha Amoghasiddhi in the form of green light and nectar that fills up our body, that blesses us, revitalizing our qualities. And so we develop the power of realization, the certainty in every action, rejoicing, the happiness for the happiness and virtue of others and ourselves.
Lama Rinpoche Dorje Kien.
Lama Rinpoche Dorje Kien. At our navel chakra, with the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Ratnasambhava, yellow in color with the mudra of supreme generosity, we eliminate all negativities that are related to our navel chakra in the form of dark yellow horses, smoke, and dirt. Especially, we eliminate completely our arrogance, our sense of superiority, miserliness, our material miserliness, spiritual and emotional miserliness, spiritual miserliness, and every sickness related to our navel chakra is completely eliminated. We receive all the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Ratnasambhava in the form of yellow light and nectar that fills up our body and blesses us. Revitalizing our qualities, we develop humbleness, generosity of giving materially, giving love, giving protection, and giving the Dharma. We develop the wisdom of equanimity and the pure aggregate of sensation.
Lama Michel Dorje Kien.
Lama Michel Dorje Kien. At our heart chakra, with the blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Akshobhya, blue in color, with the mudra of stability, we purify all negativities that are related to our heart chakra in the form of dark blue snakes, smoke, and dirt. Especially, we eliminate completely our anger, our hatred, resentment, sadness, depression, inner instability, anxiety, and all the sicknesses that are related to our heart chakra. They're completely eliminated. We receive all the blessings of the Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Akshobhya in the form of blue light and nectar that fills up our body and it blesses us, revitalizing our qualities. We develop love and compassion, inner stability, patience, spontaneous joy, the pure aggregate of consciousness, and the Dharmatattva wisdom, the mind in its pure state. Lama Chu Dorje Kyen.
il chakra della gola,
At
con la
our
benedizione dello
throat
Supremo Guardiano
chakra,
Guru Buddha
with the
Amitabha,
blessings of Supreme Healer Guru Buddha Amitabha, red in color with the mudra of meditative
eliminiamo tutte le
concentration, we
negatività,
eliminate
vibrazioni
all the
inconscienti
negativities that are related to our
nel
throat
corpo
chakra in the
di
form of
visualizzazione
dark red
di
hens, smoke, and dirt. Especially,
eliminiamo
we completely
completamente
eliminate the
l'illimitato,
unlimited
il
attachment,
desiderio
unlimited
illimitato,
desire,
l'insoddisfazione,
dissatisfaction,
la mancanza
lack of
di concentrazione,
concentration,
la distrazione
distraction,
e tutte le
and
malattie
all the
relazionate
sicknesses related to the throat
come
chakra, like violent speech,
vengono completamente
they're
eliminate.
completely eliminated.
Riceviamo tutte
We
le
receive
benedizioni
all the
del
blessings of
Supremo
Supreme
Guru Buddha
Healer Guru
Amitabha
Buddha Amitabha
nella
in
forma
the form
rugginosa
of
dello
red
Sostieni
light and
che
nectar
porta
that fills up our
ci
body
nutrice,
and blesses us.
rivitalizzando le nostre
And by
qualità
doing so, it revitalizes our
di soddisfazione,
qualities like satisfaction, concentration,
la parola sacra,
pure speech,
l'aggregato
and the
puro
pure
della
aggregate
sapienza
and the
intellettiva.
wisdom of discernment.
Om Amitabahum, Om Amitabahum, Om Amitabahum, Om Amitabahum, Om Amitabahum. Lama Nanze Dorje Kyen,
Lama Nanse Dorje Kyen.
il chakra del capo,
At
con
our
la
crown
benedizione
chakra, with the
del
blessings of
Guru Buddha
Supreme Healer
Amitabha,
Guru Buddha Vairochana,
abbiamo
white in
tutte le
color with the
benedizioni
mudra
dell'insegnamento.
of of teaching the
Eliminiamo tutte le
Dharma.
negatività
We
relazionate al
eliminate
chakra del
all
capo
negativities
nella forma
related
di
to our
red light
crown chakra in the
and
form of dark
purification,
black pigs, smoke, and dirt.
specialmente
Especially,
eliminiamo
we eliminate
completamente la
completely
ignoranza,
our
la visione
ignorance, the
erronea
wrong
della vita,
view of reality,
di se stessi
of
e di ogni
self, and
fenomeno,
of every phenomenon,
l'aggrapparsi a
the
un'esistenza,
grasping at an intrinsic existence,
la mancanza di
the
spazio
lack
interiore
of inner space,
e tutte le
and
malattie
every
relazionate al chakra del
sickness
capo
that's related to
sono
our
cancellate.
crown chakra is completely eliminated.
Riceviamo
We
tutte le
receive
benedizioni
all the
del Supremo
blessings
Guru
of
Buddha
Supreme Healer Guru Buddha
Amitabha,
Vedochana in the form of white light and nectar
riempie
that fills up our
ci
body.
nutrice,
And as it blesses us,
rivitalizzando le
it
nostre qualità
revitalizes our qualities,
la saggezza,
and we
la corretta
develop
visione della
wisdom, the
realtà,
correct view of reality,
l'infinito
infinite
spazio
inner
interiore,
space,
la saggezza chiara
the
come uno specchio,
mirror like
l'aggregato puro
wisdom, and
della
the pure
sapienza
aggregate of
intellettiva.
form.
Om Veiro Chana Hum, Om Veiro Chana Hum, Om Veiro Chana Hum, Om Veiro Chana Hum, Om Veiro Chana Hum. In un
In an
istante
instant,
sorgiamo come
we
Buddha
appear
Vajradhara,
as Buddha
essere
Vajradhara,
perfettamente in
a
equilibrio,
being in complete
l'unione dei cinque Dhyani Buddha,
balance, the union of five Dhyani Buddhas
rappresentando come una perfetta unione di
in the
amore, compassione e saggezza, metodo e saggezza,
in the hugging mudra, holding Vajra and bell, symbolizing perfect union of
ci
method
immaginiamo
and
stati in
wisdom. We
sincera
imagine
pace con noi
ourselves
stessi
in,
e con ogni essere.
in peace with ourselves and every being.
Metodo per equilibrare e
Method
sviluppare
to
l'energia maschile del metodo e l'energia femminile della saggezza. L'energia maschile del metodo nella
so
forma del
the male
bodhicitta
energy of the
scende
method
dal chakra
in
del
the form of
capo
white bodhicitta goes
e
down from the
sfocia nel
crown to the
seno
secret chakra. Then the
per
female
attraversare le
energy
cinque
of
Dhyani
wisdom,
Buddha
the red bodhicitta,
e
ascends, comes up from the secret chakra to the crown, and then these two energies unite at the crown, the throat, the secret chakra, navel, and then finally at the heart, bringing us to a deep state of consciousness. In this whole process, we experience a deep state of bliss that fills up our entire body and mind, purifying body and mind on a subtle and very subtle level. For the power of, by the power of the truth, peace and bliss forever, from a deep state of bliss and emptiness, in the clear light, in the union of the illusory body, in a pure state of we arise in a coarse body. We arise with a body of light. All surroundings arise as well. We take refuge in the three jewels, and we take the commitment to help every being we meet, practicing generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Trashidele. Thank you all. Just want to remind you that next week, instead of this week, so I won't be there because this week there's a small stupa that we're making. It's also nice to know that as a center we're making making a stupa for a master who came to teach also to us, Geshe Thupten Rinchen, and for so we're making the stupa for various reasons, and to um, to we were supposed to put it up this week, but one of the monks who was helping us actually got COVID, so we remember, I wasn't supposed to be here today. Instead, we'll do that next week, so I won't be here. Instead, this weekend in Albagnano, I won't be present for the course uh, the course that we had programmed, but I asked Geshe Lobsang to, in the afternoon, of questions and answers. He is someone he's present at our center. He just finished about almost 6 years of retreat. Um, he has spent his entire life dedicated to the Dharma. He is he has an amazing, a deep, vast knowledge, and his practice is very alive with hours and hours of practice every day. So he'll be available for answering your questions. Um, he's he's very humble. He doesn't have this attitude of wanting to show, but we were able to convince him to do this. And during the mornings, the monks from Sharganden who are at the center, Saturday they will do the Tara practice, and then on Sunday the medicine Buddha practice. This is also a wonderful opportunity for you. So thank you all.